Hello and welcome back to the Publisher Podcast from Media Voices. I'm Esther Thorpe and this is the latest in a series of sessions from our Publisher Summits, which were held in June. This episode features a fantastic panel from the Publisher.app Summit, where Hearst UK's Emma Pegham and Stylist's Felicity Thistlethwaite join me on stage to talk about how games and added extras help enhance relationships with their subscribers and boost those all-important retention rates. I've written up the highlights from this episode in an article which is live on voices.media, or straight into your inbox if you're a subscriber to our weekly newsletter. Before we get into it, a huge thanks to the sponsors of the Publisher.app Summit, PugPig and Sino. You can find out more about them and how they help publishers take their apps to the next level at publishersummits.com. And just to note that as with some of our previous episodes, as the audio for this was recorded from our backup devices at the summit, it's not quite at our usual quality, but Felicity and Emma are still audible, so I wanted to share what they'd said with you. I opened the session by asking Felicity to tell us about some of the recent changes to Stylist's app and what inspired them.
Sure, I have come back from maternity leave. Congratulations. I have my notebook in front of me because my own brain rhythm is at nil. We had a redesign. So we launched in April last year, and that was with PugPig. It's a really, really lovely app. We're really pleased we've got it. It's all about community.
You're in the room, guys.
You're PugPig. Oh no, he definitely saw me spill my Nespresso coffee earlier, so that's embarrassing. It's really nice. It's all about community, and that's what is at the heart of Stylist. It's always about the women and the people who download our app and what they want from it. I would say since then we've moved on to really take to heart our subscription packages. So we've had to look at the app and everything else we're offering and really understand why we're doing what we're doing. And what we've done, working with PugPig, is create our VIP area within the app, and that's really, really important to us. So we now have all of our main site content. You can access that entirely for free. We have our subscription content, which is, we have 2 levels of subscription, and we have our games functionality. So our games is, as we will talk about soon, one of our best retention tools. And what we're learning about our users from this is helping us define not only the content we make, but the creative and product decisions that we make.
And can the puzzles be played by anybody, or is that a plus feature?
Well, they can.
Am I preempting questions here?
No, it's totally fine. They are free and they can be played by anyone. More subscribers play the games, which is really interesting. But games users in general are twice as likely to come back to the app, so we really understand what's at the heart of what they want. Soon, we will be putting some behind a paywall, because we have to test this. We're in business, it's how we work, and we know what people want, so we're going to try and use it as a subscription tool.
I have so many questions that I'm going to say. Emma, has again, I think you've had quite an app journey over the last couple of years. Specifically the women's health and men's health, and you've added quite a few features to those. Can you talk about those? And I think you've done some more recent stuff on Runner's World as well.
Correct. So the initial strategy for our membership app was kind of similar to what you were saying. Was we kind of had our digital editions in there, and that was it. Kind of not really engaging much of our users. A small user of our subscribers were using them. So the first thing that we did as well was sort of work with PugPig to create our RSS feeds and start pulling in site content. And we saw a huge kind of uplift there. I think it was about 140% in terms of downloads once we did that. And also updated sort of like the look and feel to reflect the brand identities a lot slicker kind of in terms of functionality. The first sort of experiment that we did after that with bringing in extra features was with men's and women's health, where we integrated training plans. And I think it was a really great lesson for us about kind of who we are as a publisher and what we should be offering to our customers. The training plans are great and kind of offer all of the features that you would expect from training plans within an app. I think what we discovered though is that it's not necessarily what our customers would want from us. We are, so men's and women's health, they go for advice, they go for nutrition, they go for information, they go for community. But there's a lot of competitors out there who solely do training plans, and that is what their functionality is entirely geared towards. So I think after speaking to a lot of customers, they were kind of saying, you know, the plans are great, but I have plans in another app, I've got them in Nike or whatever. So we kind of, when we got to Runners World, and Runners World wanted to do the same things as part of their new membership, we were like, we've done this before and we've learned our lesson. So we were thinking about how can we drive a certain level of utility that is bringing users back into the app regularly, as they do when they check content, when they look at our timelines, when they look at their digital editions. What is it that we can offer them? And Runners World do already create amazing sort of PDF training plans that runners love. They don't need loads of like kind of whizzy features. They want their plan just outlined for them in weeks with the tips.
In a PDF?
In a PDF, yeah. They love it. So we were like, well, how can we improve that experience for them? How can we start to put everything in one place? So again, working with PugPig, we were like, how do we use our existing stack and our existing functionality and do this in kind of like quite a lean way whilst providing exactly what it is that our users want? So instead of kind of doing the approach with men's and women's health, where we kind of tried to go full bells and whistles, we created a library of these training plans, kind of thought about what it is that users want, and it's actually kind of personalization, which we're just using through some filters that we've created. So they kind of go on this journey. They go in and they say, I want to learn to run a half marathon. This is the time that I want to do it in, and this is how many runs a week I want to do. Shows you your plan, and then you can kind of download it. And that's kind of part of the new Runners World membership, which is tiered. So different levels of members get different levels of access, and they've been really, really successful. We've got a new gold membership tier, which we didn't have before, which includes kind of it's like our full membership. And I think we've seen so much growth from those users especially. I think we thought that our kind of mid to lower tiers would be the ones that would see the most growth from that, but actually it's that top level because they see the value in the full package, and that's what they wanted.
And did you have those PDF plans already? So it's a case of just rethinking how you present stuff you've already got.
So we had some plans already on the website, and so it's about how do we lock those off? How do we make sure that there's still kind of a proposition there to stop people just going there? But we did actually create a lot of new plans for this, so it was kind of like brand new information for a lot of runners, and that's what they wanted. And then kind of worked with the team to figure out the workflow in the app that would be the best way to upload those.
I suppose a question for both of you, because this term utility has come up, where you're not just going, I was going to say not just reading content, and I hate the term content, but you're not just going to an app to read content. It's about the app being something, it sounds like something more useful. Something beyond just written, just the article, let's say that. Where do you see your app sitting on that spectrum between content and utility?
Yeah, all that rubbish content that we create and publish. No, I think the women and people that use our app are multifaceted, right? And they want different things at different times. And I was listening to the guy from the FT, and he showed this amazing graph of like when people are using their app and the website and understanding why they're using it and what time and what for, etc. And there is going to be a time and place to understand the changes to the abortion law that's coming up this month and why that's going through Parliament, and we at Stylist will be across that. There is also going to be a time and place when you're on a train and you just really can't be asked to read anything, and we've got a podcast for you. There's a game, all of these things are there because the women that read our app have told us that they are multifaceted. We have a research arm at Stylist called Think Stylist, and they've done a load of research into the people who are a really valuable part of our community, and they tell us what they want. And you see the popularity of games with New York Times over lockdown. It's really, we can understand that this is what they want. So what are we? I think we're a bit of everything, which is a cop-out. Sorry.
I think it's an interesting question about where we sit in terms of content and utility, and I think what I was saying about men's and women's health sort of illustrates that, is that we can't act in outside of the content. Everything has to sort of uplift and connect to the content in some way. So when we were kind of thinking about features for each app, we're thinking about that audience and what we think they might respond to. Prima already did puzzles in their print version, and they had them on the website. So if we're wanting to drive that utility into the app, then it's sort of a familiar journey for them. I do think that is probably the one example, though, that is the least tied to content. Whereas the training plans for Runners World, they can connect to all of the articles, which can also be found into the app. There's a timeline specifically on nutrition, and you can find content for your specific plan. For Good Housekeeping, we have kind of a podcast as well. Brand new redesign, Johnny, looking beautiful. And we can kind of see, because that podcast is directly tied to recipe content, it's really effective. So I think whilst obviously you want to drive utility, you want to give your users something to do that is going to repeatedly bring them back to the app and that's going to drive up those sessions and make the sessions longer, it still has to be tied to what ultimately we do as a publisher, which is create great content.
Somebody brought it up this morning that I think, because we always point to the New York Times for this sort of thing, and they describe themselves as being the content is the centre of the solar system, and all the puzzles and recipes and everything else just orbit, which I thought was quite nice. The features that you've got in there, like puzzles, fitness trackers, they do encourage the regular usage. Are there any particularly that have stood out as working best for building habits and retention? And do you have any insights or metrics on how these impact dwell time, retention, that sort of thing? Let's get to some numbers.
Sorry, I can go first. This is where I'm going to refer to my notebook. What I would say is that we are well aware that our games are habit builders. It is habitual, and that is brilliant. That's absolutely perfect, and that's what we want. As part of the building of community, it's about being part of someone's life throughout their day. So whether you're commuting, which is very Stylist, from the very start of what Stylist is, it was a magazine that people picked up on their commute. We're just building on top of that. The average app user, and that is both subscriber and non-subscriber, for a puzzle player, the 30-day retention compared to the average user is 85% greater. So when we look at the value of our apps and the lifetime value of our users who play the games, that's quite something. If you play puzzles, you are 68% more likely to come back to articles, and you read 68% more articles a week, and that is also 31%, you read 31% more articles per session. So we're talking big numbers here for the people who play our games on our app.
So one of the things to note about the Hearst apps is that everything is behind some kind of subscriber paywall. So we kind of made a decision early on that we weren't necessarily going to be about scale and pure numbers, but it was going to be about engagement of our existing subscribers and trying to add value and encourage usage through that. So when we introduced the new RSS feeds, the new content, the new look and feel for all the apps, I think we saw, I'm going to also be checking my notes, I'm so sorry, but that was 149% kind of monthly active users after that introduction. Puzzles for us as well has been amazing, and I think it's something like every user does an average of 17 puzzles, I think it's per month, which is, 70 unique puzzles per month. So they will go through, I think it's 10 puzzles in the app, and they will kind of go through and rack it up every single day. I will note that our CEO is our puzzle super user, and she will message me if there is a single pixel out of place at 6 o'clock in the morning. So it's always good to have that ahead of everyone else in our subscription base using it. And then Training Plans has done the same thing with Runners World. We've noticed that the weekly didn't pick up so much for runners, because they would kind of look at it and they would sort of know what they have to do, and then they would leave it. But we did notice that every month, the way that they were kind of coming through and their sessions extending, every month that was going up. So whether that would be, they would be kind of checking their progress throughout the plan, it would be whether there's kind of some specific content tied to that. Again, always tying our content back to that initial kind of like proposition. So yeah, it's kind of been different across all of our brands. Interestingly, our luxury brands have been slower to pick up. We're not quite sure what that says yet. We're still learning, but I think as we start to kind of learn about these, I think it is just about, obviously the puzzle's driving up those numbers, but us figuring out how, particularly for the plans, we're going to kind of continue to bring them back in those months.
So I suppose, is it the case, particularly if you've got a lot of different brands, of just trying and seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, and then trying out another brand? Yes, I think if I had my time again, we did go with a big bang approach with the apps. We did them, they did them all pretty much in one go. And I think it's amazing because obviously the numbers are fantastic and there's so much engagement and it does grow. But yeah, now the kind of dust is starting to settle. I think the next part for us is actually just taking stock about what is and isn't working well, and what we're going to do to address that. So the health and wellness brands, so Men's Health, Women's Health and Runners World, we know that we've got a really captive app audience there. So I think our next kind of review is going to be, do we continue to invest in that audience and do we continue to grow things? Instinct says yes, but then what do we do for our brands that perhaps aren't picking that up as well? Do we kind of start doing some research into what we can do to the apps for that, or is it just that's not where they want their content to be? So yeah, the breadth of Hearst is one of its strengths. We have something for everyone and so many amazing brands, but also it does kind of mean that sometimes when you try that blanket approach and then you start to learn, it's kind of that then when you start to kind of finesse the specifics between each brand. I think marketing is quite an important part of this. And actually, I got in touch with you because I picked up the Stylist magazine and there was a huge bright pink page in there that was like, have you tried our new app? It's got puzzles. So I thought that'd be a great case study for our upcoming app summit. And I suppose a lot of these new features are only useful if people know about them. So how do you market what you've got in your app? How do you get people to on board? Apart from print ads, which is what works for me.
I mean, we market across everything that we have access to. Yes, it's in our print, which is wonderful, and I'm very pleased you picked that up. But we also use our house ads, we use our inventory on site, we're using our email, we speak about it more editorially, so we're providing in-copy links to it, we're using our personal Instagram accounts, we're using our social. It really does cover everything, and everyone's invested in it because we understand that is where the most engaged user is coming to, and it is the future. Well, it's not the future, it is happening right now, but it's the driver of what we're currently doing.
I think ours is a sort of different strategy because our apps are so geared towards our existing subscribers. So instead of kind of having it almost as an ad, it's a bit sneaky. So we've just launched Club Cosmo, which is one of the latest of our memberships, and part of that will be you can access your rewards platform, which is actually just a web view of the website. So you can access it on web, but we try and drive people to the app through that, and that's where we host all of our reward sites as well. We've got kind of loads of memberships coming out of our ears, and when we kind of point people there, that is where we'll try and drive them to. Similarly, kind of one thing we found really effective for bringing in non-subscribers is offering kind of temporary access to the apps through voucher codes, or some Good Housekeeping did an air fryer sort of like digi-mag inside their supplement, crazy numbers for the air fryer mag. And so kind of giving people temporary access to something that we know is going to drive that, and then people go in the app and they go, Good Housekeeping's got puzzles, Good Housekeeping's got podcasts, it's got all of the site content here, and it's got no ads. It's an amazing ad-free experience. So actually, if I'm constantly going to the Good Housekeeping site and I'm suddenly really enjoying this app experience, then we're kind of so open to see conversions to subscribers there.
Sneaky marketing, I like it. Yeah, I suppose as part of that, when users first download the app, whether that's a discovery or they're already a member, are there ways you let them know about what features are in the app, or is it very much encouraged that they have a poke around and just find out what's in there?
Sure. So, I mean, we've got welcome screens once you download the app, and we spend a lot of time on those. Incredibly thoughtful, and so yeah, kind of when you go in, particularly some of our brands, we've kind of got some research about this. Not everyone is a huge digital native. We've kind of got people that sometimes need a little bit of extra help. So particularly for those brands, when they get a subscription email that tells them about the app that they can access, we'll make sure that we give really clear instructions about how to access it and what's available in there. But yeah, and kind of as we start to introduce new features, obviously we'll kind of publicise that along with other things. So that, like, once we launched podcasts on the Good Housekeeping app, it's like, well, you can also access your puzzles in there, you can access your recipes in there, you can access whatever. So kind of just tying it all together and constantly driving those reminders.
I need the air fryer link after this. Thank you. I think what we do is probably slightly different in that we have different levels of communication with different levels of like subscriber, non-subscriber, or VIP subscriber. And actually, unless you are a non-subscriber, you get an onboarding series using our email system, and that really walks you through every single thing you have access to. And if you're in that mid-tier, what you could have access to if you decided to upgrade, because we have this amazing VIP area in the app, and that's also very obvious. We don't hide that. So along the bottom of the app, we have the feed, we have games, and then we have the VIP area. If you aren't a VIP member, you can see that, you can click on it, and you can upgrade, but you can't obviously see all of the VIP member benefits to that. So we don't have a walkthrough on the app, but we do have an amazing onboarding series.
Yes, I'd love to, sorry. I can't say what it is that we're building. I didn't check before I came, so I'm just going to play it safe and not say anything. We're building a very exciting new app at the moment for one of our brands, and one of the things that we are discussing is what we offer to VIPs, what we offer to free users, and what we offer to subscribers. How did you make those decisions, and how did you, sorry, you might not have been here, sorry, because you just come back from leave, but how do you think those decisions were made, and what you decide to kind of gatekeep, because you obviously want to make it exciting for people using the free experience, but you don't want to give too much away.
Thank you. I tell you what, we launched the app literally the week I was having my baby. So I did all the pre-work, thank you. I did all the pre-work, and then Alan was like, the app's launched. And I was like, guess what, I've also had a baby. And he was like, cool, but the app? So I was there for the understanding. And I suppose, how did we understand what to put in the package, or how did we understand how to sell it? What we put in there. So I think what's interesting to understand about Stylist is that we have quite a deep understanding of our audience from everything that we do. So we also host events, and a lot of our events we speak to our audience. We do quant and qual research all the time into what people really want. And so we have that understanding of who our reader is, what they want. They want to be part of the brand, and that was really formed a big part of our VIP package, is the access you get to the team and the decision-making process. You know, we have a whole email that goes just to the VIP members, and they get to talk to the team about which cover would you like next month, which cover star do you prefer, and they can vote on it. We use something called movable ink. We have all of these tools so we can talk to them. It's about understanding what the community wants and what community means to people. So it's VIP events, it's in person talking with the team. Alex Walker invited, we had a cover recently that was dresses for everybody, and I think that was 50 people on the cover modelling dresses, and I think 15 of those were our VIP members. So we went straight out to our VIP community and said, right, there's this opportunity, come down and be in a shoot. And I think they had to choose. They were inundated with people who wanted to be part of it. So I think the biggest selling point for our VIPs is to be part of Stylist. And I'm sure your very top secret, very exciting launch will probably do exactly the same thing.
quite a strong converter compared to where else is advertised, like on websites?
Yeah, I think it's a real mix actually, because we do quite a lot of discussion about VIP in our emails. So it's something we always nod to, it's something we're talking about a lot, so there is a lot of visibility, but there is nothing like that button on the app. There really isn't. That is such a good acquisition tool.
I think we're running short on time, and I do want to open it to questions shortly. So I think one final thing is what's upcoming. Have you got anything exciting launching in any of the apps? Or what's on your agenda over the next?
Yeah. I mean, I can't talk about the really exciting one. I don't think. I mean, you probably wouldn't tell, but you know. So it's optimizations at this point. So we're going to be improving our consent management by implementing OneTrust. We're doing a sale-through integration so that we can link kind of all of our marketing with push notifications and messaging through that. And then Piano is on the roadmap. It has been on the roadmap, but yeah, kind of really improving that authentication experience. Our major sticking point with all of our apps is how we link our subscriptions and that ecosystem into our authentication and our app journey. And when we get that right, I think it's just going to unlock so much potential.
I mean, this is a sexy app discussion we're here for.
Honestly, yeah. If anyone wants to come in and talk about Piano, please do.
Very similar sale through Piano, also on the very recent horizon for us, but personalisation. So being able to offer people what they want per an algorithm rather than offering everyone everything is definitely at the forefront of what we want to do. And data, understanding data, just taking a minute, like you said, taking stock and really understanding what people are using, what they're not using. And the final thing is 3 new games. 3 new games, and I need to decide on the title of those games names today. So yes, we're launching them as soon as possible.
I'm gonna have a few drinks before the podcast awards, so we can break this off.
Yeah, that would be great.
Are you thinking about doing commenting in the apps? Would you like be a forum, for example?
So I attend the monthly publisher things where I've seen it. Yeah, community kind of engagement and user-generated content is quite an interesting one for us. I think when I've seen it a lot of the time, I think it would really benefit kind of newsy sites, but we do know that Runner's World and Cosmo especially have such a focus on community. So runners want to be able to, I mean, kind of similar to, Strava, they love to be able to track progress, share progress. And then Cosmo, we've really identified that need for people to be able to communicate with each other. So if there was 2 brands that we would start to investigate, I think it would be those, and it'd be something we're really keen to tie into our membership proposition, because I think the thing that is currently missing from those is, we've got great content, we've got training plans, but I think that community aspect is what's missing. So I think that would be what we would potentially look at.
So I'm not the right person to talk to about this, and Emma definitely is. But I think personalisation is coming above comments for us. It's not something that's on the table for right now, but whether that's in Q3, who knows?
Any more questions? Because I think I've got one more to close otherwise. Oh no, that was just head scratch. Some of the case studies we've had today have definitely had older audiences. Apps are kind of seen as, unless you're TikTok, it's something that maybe young people aren't as engaged with. But I think both of you have got quite much younger audience bases. Do you see this as something that younger audiences are engaging with, that they're really keen to have another app alongside TikTok that they open? Are apps the future?
Her pig says yes. They are. No, they are.
They're getting their money's worth in this session,
do you know what? We see no age in it. So yes, our target audience is 25 to 35, but actually that spans so much higher and much lower, and the data would suggest that we have a really good breadth of people who are downloading the app. We have 25,000 people who are downloading the app, so the data we've got from that would say yes, our target audience are loving it, and yes, we have a vast spectrum beneath and above.
I think that's an interesting question, and as I mentioned, Cosmo will be is probably one of our brands that skews the youngest. It's not got the highest amount of downloads, I think, of our apps, and I think that surprised us when we first did it. Just because, like you say, kind of like so engaged on things like TikTok, but obviously that's not who our competitor is. I think what we're going to be looking at with Cosmo is it features? Is that what they're looking for? Because obviously they're kind of used to accessing content in a completely different way. So do we investigate actually just incorporating more video into the apps? Do we kind of like link through from the sites more? We know that the way that people kind of access our content, especially on Cosmo, is through social. So how do we kind of look at that funnel? How do we look at that journey and start to bring them along? And is that the best place to do that? So yeah, I think giving them something to do in the app other than content, I think is going to be our next test, and really speaking to those users. It's also one of the great things about our new membership. I think we've got upwards of 1,000 members since we launched last week. And those are the people that I really want to talk to, the people that are engaged enough to sign up. They filled out a sign-up form, which is, it's slick and it's quick, but it's got quite a few questions in there, and they were filling them all out. And I'm like, if you're willing to do that, like what can we do in the app that's going to kind of engage you and make you want to stay? We love games at Hearst, so absolutely, yeah. So next ones, honestly, for Good Housekeeping and for Prima, they have been game-changing. Sorry, but yeah. So I think it's going to be things like that. How do we activate that engagement with them?
Air fries, isn't it? So thank you very much, both of you. Thank you.
Thanks to Felicity and Emma for joining us on stage at the summit. We've written up the key learnings from these sessions, which is now live on our website and in our newsletter, and you can find both of those at voices.media. And finally, thanks once again to the App Summit sponsors, PugPig, who are the leading mobile publishing platform powering 400 apps for over 150 publishers globally, including Hearst and Stylist, and Sino, a global leader in data solutions and market research. We'll be back next week with another session from the Publisher Summit. But until then, enjoy the last of the summer holidays.